if you guys watching this, you didn't really have a lot of background. I mean, I think you kind of talked about this, Julia, then Jack. But do you think watching this police interview, if you were doing a profile for the FBI, would you be telling your coworkers or whoever, yeah, she was definitely involved. She knew about this and she was involved. Or is there not enough in this? What do you think, Julia? Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. This video is a compilation of 2 live streams I did regarding Wendi Adelson's police interview. They are with Jack from Never a Truer Word and Julia from the Consult podcast. They both evaluate the statements that Wendi makes in her police interview and give their analysis. I hope you like it, and please check out their links in the bio. Thank you so much.
So my career has been in the media for years. I worked as a radio producer and a radio programmer. I've also done advertising and marketing and sales, even a little bit of politics. And they all involve using words to persuade people to do something, to get them to take action. And I also was trained as a hypnotherapist. And as I was doing that, I realized I could kind of reverse engineer what I was doing and listen to the words that a client was saying more deeply by looking at the tactics they used to talk about their problems and their issues. Sometimes they were fooling themselves with things as well, but by really listening and analyzing what they said, I could do better work for them, which sowed the seeds of this idea. So then it's been years of study and research and applying principles and so on to check that they work, to the point where I feel like I'm pretty damn good at it now.
Yeah, you are awesome. But right now, let us check out Wendi Adelson's police interview. Let me set this up here. All right, there we go. So, for folks who don't know, this is the day that Dan Markel was shot. She right now is sitting and waiting for investigator Isom to come in. And here we go. And you just, Jack, just tell me when you want me to stop, and we will go over whatever notes you have.
Cool.
I can fast forward a little here because.
Did your ID with you?
I just listened to my voicemail.
What'd you hear?
Who
was your voicemail?
It's from Lisa Carey, who is my real estate agent, or who I had gone with to find a house. She just said she was driving around town and she heard there was a shooting on Trescott.
Yeah, that's what this is about. I'm sorry you had to hear it that way.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I should.
It's all right, just leave it there. Is it still on?
It's right there.
And you want to just hit play again for me?
Sure.
Hey, it's Lisa Carey. It is Friday, and I feel like an idiot doing this, but I just heard that there was a shooting over on Trescott, and I promise I'm not trying to be dramatic or even nosy. I don't know, just checking on you, my friend. I hope all is well. I hope your sweet boys are well, and if there's anything you need, let me know. It just ran a chill down my spine when I heard that there was something going on Trescott. All right, 212-3083. Hope all is well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
That's all right, you can stop it. Or does it stop automatically?
It's done.
Okay, do you have your identification with you?
By the way, while she pulls out her ID, what's great about this is Jack was not really that familiar with this case, so this is all new to him, which is good for him.
Markle?
No.
To not have any bias going into it.
A-D-E.
Like I have a little bit of bias about it. Just a scotch.
Okay. Wendi with an I. Joe. All right. There was a shooting at your home, or your ex-husband's home, at 2116 Trescott. Okay. Your ex-husband, Daniel, all right, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I'm sorry, hard. I know that's a tremendous burden.
before we get into everything, I have to establish where you were and who you were with and so forth.
Okay.
Okay, and then once we've established all that, I can give you more details.
Okay.
Do you understand why I wanted you to come here before I discuss this?
Oh my god. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, you have nothing to be sorry about.
Stop here, James.
Yep. Go ahead.
So there's been lots of build up there, but there's a couple of things I notice. Number one, she says sorry a lot. Now, I haven't had time to prove this or look into it, but I was talking to someone last week who said the FBI have a stat that when they're interviewing someone, guilty people will say sorry a lot more in their interview, even if they're pretending to be innocent and not necessarily apologizing for the crime or whatever they're being interviewed for, but like she does there, sorry for crying. She said sorry earlier on as well, and she will say sorry quite a bit through this interview. The other thing is she uses the phrase "oh my god" a lot, and it's quite often when she says "oh my god," and you'll see it happen, is when she then drops in a new bit of information that she's not been asked for. So "oh my god" is one of her key phrases she uses. And then this is something to watch for throughout this interview. The detective asks her, do you understand why I want to talk to you? And she says, oh my God. She doesn't say, yeah, I get that. Or why me? No, I don't understand. You know, I'm nothing to do with me. She just says, oh my God. And really watch for how closely she answers the question that she's asked, because that will tell you where she's sensitive about what it is that she's being asked and trying to avoid and move the conversation on somewhere else.
Wow, this is so super interesting, because now after this I'm gonna watch this with all these.
Oh, there's more. There's lots more to watch out for with her.
All right, let's go, folks. Here we go.
How did this happen?
Can you let me get over this hump, okay? Can we do that first? All right. Can you tell me what time you left your house this morning?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't leave this morning. I didn't leave until noon.
Okay. And
Oh my god. And I tried to drive up Trescott and I saw that it was blocked.
It was blocked at some point. I'm not sure what time it was
And I
blocked.
just thought, oh, there's maybe some trees down or something. Because sometimes
Oh, you're saying as you drove
Stop her.
down which one of the side roads?
when I
Gotcha.
So she answers that question, what time did you leave the house this morning? And she said, I left about 12, actually. I didn't leave this morning. So she has no sensitivity around that. And actually, the biggest way that people will deceive us is actually using the truth. And so it really helps if you can spot when someone's telling the truth, because then you can see what they're hiding or what they're missing. So I believe she left about 12 because she answers the question she was asked fairly directly. Then she does an, oh my God. It's the, oh my God, I drove down Trescott. She hasn't been asked where she went by the detective at all. She's introducing this for a reason. It could be just this sudden shock of it, but what? She's heard a voicemail already that there's been a shooting on Trescott. Did she not think at that point, shit, I was on that street? But here she's like, oh, I've just remembered I was there. No, don't buy that at all. And that's introduced by the oh my God. And then listen out for this as we go through the interview. She gives 4 different reasons as to what she experienced, or 4 different things that she experienced on that street. She contradicts herself, or the contrasts. So I don't believe she just happened to be on that street. She says here, I drove up Trescott and I saw it was blocked. So that's very certain. I saw the street was blocked. You've got an image in your mind, haven't you? If you see a street that's blocked, there is a blockage and you can't go any further down it. That's what she says. But then when the detective says it was blocked at some point, she says, and I just thought maybe some trees down or something. But she's going to say a few more things as she goes on about what she experienced on the street. And none of them are the same. She gives 4 different reasons as we go on.
Well, and I can give you a little background. So I've done a whole video on this. She continually, so the street that she's Trescott, the road where the murder happened, you cannot see, like, there's a longer road. Well, we'll get into it, but she tries to say, like, oh, I just stopped and I turned around. But in order for her to see the house or to see the tape, she had to go very long down Trescott. And she continually, even in the trials, she lies about that. So it's so interesting. Like, and she says, oh my God, and she brings it up immediately because she knew this was going to be a problem, right? Or she knew that this was going to be something that people looked at in the future, you think? Or all
Yeah.
right.
So and I think it's really obvious if you watch this that she's not giving a version of events. If you ask me what I did before we did this live, about 4:30 UK time, I put some food on to have a meal, ate that, spoke to my other half, took the dog for a walk, came back, looked at my notes, so I was fresh for this, right? But what she's doing is telling you what she did and the reasons why they all happened and the sort of, time stamping things and who she spoke to and so on. So she's setting up an alibi here, which she wasn't, the murderer. We know that. So it's actually believable that all these things happened. But what she is doing here is if she's smart and she, is around a lot of law people, this is the first interview. This is going to be, and I think it is still referred to now in court cases and so on. So she's setting out right now her stall, but she's doing it because she want to do it really bad. It's really hard to lie. So she gives 4 reasons why she was on that street or why she stopped turning down that street.
And she is a lawyer. I don't know if you know this, but she is a lawyer, so she does
Yeah,
know the
yeah.
law.
She spoke about that a bit in
Going to
this.
a friend's party tonight,
Oh, right.
and it's a oh my God, what am I even talking about? I needed to buy, it's a stock the shelf engagement party, and so I went to buy bourbon.
Okay.
So I went to drive from my place up Trescott to get to ABC Liquor, and it was blocked, so I just turned around. I was on the phone at the time, I wasn't paying a lot of attention.
Right.
So I just turned around and drove up the other way. I just thought, oh, sometimes when I lived there were electrical things that would happen. I left my house around 12:15 because I thought I'll get the bourbon and then I'll get some gas for the car and get super glue for one of the boys' toys, and I was trying to do all I can before meeting my 2 friends at 1.
Okay, who was at your house this morning?
The only person that was at my house this morning was a guy from Best Buy because my TV was broken and it's under warranty.
Easy for you.
Yeah, I figured.
Right.
Okay, guy.
She's doing that thing again where she's not just telling you what happened, but she's telling you why it happened. She's giving you the explanations. I thought the TV was broken. She wasn't asked the state of her TV by the detective. He said, who was at your house this morning? It would be enough to say the guy from Best Buy. Or I had a TV repairman, but she's like, the TV repairman was there because the TV was broken. I don't know, Jay, you obviously know a lot more about this than me, but is there any thought with people that the TV repair was organized on that morning to give her an alibi or someone who
Yes.
could witness her in the house? Right. So
In fact,
this is
the code word for the hit was a TV. Like the parents set this up with the brother. The code word, like they talk later on after they've been busted by the FBI, and they talk about being bribed, and they say the TV they have to pay $5,000, and Don Adelson says the TV's about $5K. TV is the code for the hit.
right, but I got the impression she because she didn't just go, who was at your house? The TV repairman, right? I got the impression she was laying a story and setting it all out so that there was a TV man there because it was broken. Because that's the thought process that was going on in her head. Because if you have a TV repair guy around, you just had a TV repair guy around. The TV's broken. I just had someone came around to fix the TV. Whereas she's going, the TV was broken because that's the story that I've made up, and so that's the story that I've got to tell.
Absolutely, this is so awesome.
A guy from
also-
Best Buy was at your house.
I was just going to say, also, she said again, with certainty, the road was blocked. I think sometimes electrical things happen. So we've had a falling tree, we've had the road being definitely blocked, and the road was blocked, and sometimes electrical things happen. So she's given multiple descriptions on this street, but none of them tie together, none of them tally.
to work on your TV?
I have his name and everything at the house if you want it, because the boys broke the TV. So.
And I'll just say real quick, who gets their TV repairman's name? Like, I have his name. Like, what do you mean? You like you have his name for you just happen to have that for the detective now, right? I mean,
yeah, it's collecting the alibi, isn't it? It's like, you know, it's just, yeah.
He gave me a choice of fixing it or getting a new one.
What time did he come to the house?
He called me at around 8. He was probably there until around 10.
Okay. There, she didn't answer the question. He asks, what time did he come to the house? And she says, he called me at 8 and was there till 10. So she doesn't say what time he came to the house. She doesn't answer that question. Later on in the interview, I think she says it was 8:15 that her alarm went off, or that he called to say he was on his way. But again, looking at alibi construction, this gives her the biggest possible window that, you know, this guy was at the house from 8 till 10. Really interesting to note as well that so many of these details in her answers change after he's taken her phone, because he takes her phone at some point to download all the information. So I think here she's hoping he called me at 8, well, it was 8-ish, and he was there till 10. So that's given me a good 2 hours accounted for here in this interview. But she doesn't answer the question, and that is always a tell that there is something sensitive going on, and she'd rather not talk about that thing over there that she's been asked, which is what time did he arrive at the house. I'd rather talk about what time he called, because that gives me a bigger, longer window.
And that's so interesting that her story kind of changes once she gives her phone. I never noticed that. Now that's another thing I'm going to start. This is awesome.
You're going to have to watch it for the 101st time.
And we're only at 7 minutes in, and you've already gotten so much information. This is so cool.
Okay. And then you
and then after he left, I kept working on a paper, and I emailed the paper to a librarian at school to work on some of the citations.
Okay.
And I don't think I talked to anyone else, but I was just working for an hour or so from the house. I was gonna take a shower, but I didn't. I ran out of time. I did laundry, and then I left the house around noon
to go to the liquor store and the stuff for the park.
What we've got again, she talks about emailing the citations to the library. She's time stamping this stuff, you know, like, so I told you what I did before this live. I didn't tell you about the 2 boys that came over and talked to the dog. You know, there's these 2 boys that could give you a perfect description of them. That's what I would do if I was trying to build an alibi for what I was doing and prove that that's what I was doing. But she's got yeah, I sent the email. So if I sent the email, you know, again, it must have been at my computer. And then she says, and I don't think I talked to anyone else. She hasn't mentioned anyone she spoke to at all. She didn't say she spoke to the repair guy at all. So she said, I didn't speak to anyone else. What's she thinking in there? Well, funnily enough, later on in the interview, she says she spoke to Charlie on the phone that morning. She hasn't mentioned that in this version of events, but she said, I hadn't talked to anyone else. So what was she thinking of there? And then she tells us what she didn't do. I was going to take a shower, but I ran out of time. Great tip. You know, one of the reasons I do this and one of the reasons I make videos is I want to give people some tips so that you can understand what words that people are using all around you, whether that's family, children, relationships, at work, and so on. And when people tell you what they didn't do, or they say something in the negative, what they don't feel, it's always really interesting. There's always more going on with that than if some truthful people just come out and tell you what the truth is. When people say things in the negative or tell you what they didn't do, and I can't tell you why she said I was going to take a shower but didn't. But the fact that she said it really does interest me. Why do you tell me what you didn't do? Maybe it's just to make that morning feel super busy. I couldn't have been out shooting my ex-husband because I was so super busy. I didn't have time to have a shower. But come on. When you're talking to your best friend, do you tell them, I didn't have a shower today? No. So why are you telling a detective in an interview room?
That's so great. By the way, we are sharing the link here, neveratruerword.com. Jack is on, like I said, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all the sites, folks. Please make sure to sub up.
Party.
Yeah.
Okay, you went down which road you said?
I went down Trescott.
Okay.
I saw a police car there, and I just thought it was blocked, so I just turned around and drove to, I went down the rest of Centerville, went up Benton, took Benton across, went to ABC Liquors, bought the bourbon.
I'm a little confused. You're up on
Hey.
Centerville Road.
So there's another description of what she saw in Trescott. It was a police car. She's not mentioned this police car before. And then she says, I just thought it's blocked. So I know exactly the thing that she's getting at there. We've all been in the car and the traffic doesn't move and we think the road must be blocked up ahead. But previously, she said the road was blocked. It was blocked. I thought it was a tree or something like that. Now it's the police car that she saw and she thought it was blocked. So she turned around. So that she's given many descriptions of what she experienced on Trescott.
Very interesting.
What's your purpose of driving down Trescott?
It's usually the shortcut to get to
Oh.
Monroe.
To get to Monroe?
I usually take it as a cut through to get to Thomasville or Monroe.
Okay, all right, so
I
you,
don't know why I said Monroe. I was thinking Mosaic, Monroe, Thomasville.
okay, so when you come down into town on Centerville,
I almost always cut through Trescott.
Trescott, and just drive by your old house?
Well, I do it as a way of like coming to terms with the divorce. But yeah, sometimes I drive there. If I'm too sad, I drive around.
Okay.
If the kids aren't home and I know they're not home, I feel better about driving by the house. But yeah, it's shorter and I just usually drive by.
It's shorter than going all the way down to Benton.
All the way down Centerville and around Benton. It's just
Right.
a shortcut I always took.
Okay, so you,
Okay. Another reason why I think she's lying about this Trescott is he asks her, I'm confused. By the way, I never knew I could get so much out of someone just describing a journey around some streets in a town, but here we go, right? She says, he says, what's your purpose of driving down Trescott? And she says, it's usually the shortcut to get to Monroe. And then she says, I usually take it as a cut through to get to Thomasville. And he says, so when you come into town on Centerville, she says, I almost always cut through Trescott. Well, I do it as a way of coming to terms with the divorce. Sometimes I drive there. So we've had usually, almost always, sometimes. Once again, she says it's shorter. I usually drive by the house. So she's done usually, sometimes. And then she says all the way down to Centerville and around. It's just a shortcut I always took. So she's like, it's really hard to lie. It's really hard to keep the consistency of your lies going, which is when we spot things like that, we go, or I go, what's going on there? I usually do it. Yeah, sometimes I do it, mostly do it. I always do it. Well, they can't all be true. So there has to be a lie going on in there.
Any thought on the fact that she says usually come to terms with the divorce? Because I don't know if you have a note on that. The only reason I don't know if you do, but because you probably don't know this, but she left in the middle of the night when Dan was away, when they divorced, like a couple years before this. She took all the shit. Like, she is the one who wanted the divorce, and then all of a sudden she's like, I did that to come as a way of coming to terms with the divorce, which is such bullshit. So, but like, I don't know if you didn't have that information, if it came across that way.
No, I mean, just looking at it now, she says, well, I do it as a way of like coming to terms with the divorce, but yeah, so there's so much loose language around that. So as a way of the divorce, but yeah, so she doesn't feel really committed to saying that. So if I was looking at that, I wouldn't go, she's lying just based on that, but I would say she's not committed to what she's saying there when she says that around the divorce.
Okay.
you turned around and went back to Centerville, I take it?
Yeah.
Down to Benton, and went to the liquor store down there on Thomasville?
Yeah.
The one at Benton Road?
ABC Liquors. It's at Benton.
Okay, all right, did you make a purchase there?
Yeah.
And that was sometime after 12?
Probably 12:30.
Okay, all right.
And I talked to a guy there because I don't really buy much alcohol, and so they wanted bourbon, and I asked the guy. We had a whole conversation about bourbon and
Right.
my eyes, like.
Your eyes?
He just said your eyes are
There we
really
go.
blue,
Right.
and
Her eyes.
Her eyes, well, great blue eyes. But once more, we've just got this description of not just talking to a guy in the liquor store, but why, I don't normally buy bourbons, and therefore that is why I had the conversation. And she's not telling us a story now, she's selling us a story. So it's very much that, chatty to the guy, because of this, and he mentioned my eyes because of this. And this is, again, I think for me, perfect, that she knows if they go and check the liquor store, this did happen. I believe this did happen. Probably because she walked in and went, "Hi, look at me with my eyes. I don't buy bourbon. Can you tell me how to buy bourbon?" The guy goes, "Oh yeah, that's a really popular one." And she's going, "Yes, great. He's now going to remember me coming into the store." So she's like planting the breadcrumbs there for the detective to go and look at her story, and it will check out. Interestingly, then she talks about being in some other places. So she's going to go on and talk about filling her car up with gas. And she obviously didn't feel the need to have an interaction with someone there to make that memorable. She thought, it's all right, I've got the bourbon guy, so I don't actually need to walk in the gas station and get verification.
Oh,
that I
that's
was
so
there.
interesting. That's so interesting. So that's great.
You have contacts?
I do.
Okay.
But I just remembered it.
Right.
So I bought the bourbon and got some gas on Thomasville and met my friends at Mosaic.
Which gas station did you go to on Thomasville?
The one that's, I always forget the name, but the one that's close to the cross street. It's right next to the Goodwill.
Okay.
If you're heading north on Thomasville. If you're heading north on Thomasville, it's on your right.
Okay. Just past the Goodwill
Just
place?
past the Goodwill. It's close to the intersection there.
Okay. All right. And then from that point, you went straight to the
Went to Mosaic.
Mosaic restaurant?
And met friends there. I used to have kind of a steady Friday meeting, and I hadn't seen my two friends in a while. And so we had made plans to meet up.
What
Okay.
time did you get to Mosaic?
About 1.
We've got the exact same thing going on there again. I don't know, but did she plan to meet these friends as some sort of alibi building thing? Because she doesn't just say, "I met friends." She has to give us the bloody life story of these friends that they used to regularly meet on a Friday, and she decided that this Friday they were going to meet again. And once more, it's this story. It's not just saying what happened, but it's saying what happened and why it happened and the backstory behind every single action that she takes. It's not how we would expect someone to talk about the events that they've just experienced that morning.
I was a little late. We were supposed to meet at 1, and I got there a few minutes after.
Okay. All right. I know it's cold in here. Okay.
I think that's not why. I'm
Okay.
shaking.
I know it's part of it, but do you know anybody that would have a beef against your ex-husband?
He's, oh my God.
I hate to ask it now, but I have to do it now. You
I
understand,
understand.
right?
I understand. He had friends. He always meant well, but he would sometimes rub people the wrong way.
Okay.
But not anyone who would do something like this.
Anybody that he owes money to?
No, he owes money to me.
He owes money to you?
Okay.
But not.
Got a couple of interesting things there. She doesn't know God again when she's asked, "Do you know anyone he has beef with?" And she doesn't answer the question. So that is a yes/no question. And if someone is asked a yes/no question and the reply doesn't really quickly feature the words yes or no, there's something going on. They're avoiding actually answering that question. And she's asked, "Do you know anyone that he has beef with?" And she says, "He's oh God," and it's that "oh God" thing again from her. And then she says, "I mean, he had friends." And one of the things to do when you're analyzing what someone says, look at repeated concepts, things they talk about again and again and again. And when she's talking about this shooting all the way through this interview, she talks about it in very close terms. She talks about friends. She talks about her family. She talks about love, as you'll see as we go on. So in her head, she's linking this shooting with someone extremely close to Dan. It doesn't end in what's missing. She never encounters the thought that this was some random robbery or anything like that. And, we've heard as much as she's heard at the moment, as far as we know. So we've heard the voicemail message. We've heard all the information the detective's given her, and he's given her very little information because obviously he wants to see what she has, or if she's going to leak anything out. And instead, it doesn't ever enter her head that it was a robbery gone wrong, or someone with mental health issues, or
Like a car
anything
or
like
road
that.
rage or anything that could be.
Exactly that. Just random anger. It is. She always talks about it in very, very close terms, as we'll see as we go on. She does talk about it in terms of like, just basically her language says to her that it's someone close.
Not me.
Okay, all right, all right.
Oh my God, we're poor kids. Oh. I know a lot of people didn't really love him, but I don't know anyone who would do something like this.
Well, we're still trying to determine, what happened and how it happened.
But he wouldn't do this to himself.
Okay,
He was a very positive person.
Okay. So again, we've got this closeness. So I know a lot of people didn't really love him. Now, who loves or doesn't love? Well, that's closeness, isn't it? That's again. So we've got this thing in her head around the person that did this must have been close. So I've just seen a point there on the chat. Someone says not one's frantic of the children's safety. Yes, there is. Look at what's missing. We are how far into the interview, and she hasn't expressed.
12 minutes. 12 minutes,
right.
in.
No concern for her children's safety. No concern for Dan's well-being at all. Her ex-husband, they're divorced, but on a human level, no concern for that whatsoever. Looking at what's missing, and then he's said, "Do you know anyone with beef?" Now he hasn't said, "Do you know anyone with enough beef to kill?" or anything like that. He just was asking a general question. She answers, he's got a lot of friends, and people. I know a lot of people didn't love him. But I don't know somebody who'd want to do this. And the detective realizes that she's going close, that she thinks anger or beef or not liking him or not loving him is the reason for this. And he says and throws this out and says, well, we're still trying to determine how it happened. And I think at this point, she realizes she's dropped a boo-boo here by talking about the fact that this death has been because someone didn't love him or didn't like him or so on. And that's why she then mentions, oh, he wouldn't do this to himself. He was a very positive person. So
she's kind of red herring. She's going the other way.
Yeah, I think she's got, I haven't actually expressed, I haven't asked what happened. I don't know what happened. So in this storyline that I'm living, I should know nothing about this right now. I should be open to the fact that, did he do it himself? Did a random person do this? But oh, no. So, and I think she goes, I have to do that. I think she also uses positive person as a way of talking about the new girlfriend and the fact that she wants to say the new girlfriend's ex-husband is maybe someone they should look at. Well done, Columbo.
No one that you know of or that he's spoken to recently that he's had some type of problem with or that he was concerned about?
No one that he was concerned about. I mean, we've been separated for 2 years, so I don't know,
right.
If he had something going on, I wouldn't know about it, but, I mean, I had lost my voice earlier this week, and so we had put off this conversation about our son's school and where he was going to go, and he,
Okay. Bane, what is that? She is asked, do you know someone with some type of problem with them or that he was concerned about? And she says me, because she says, oh no, I wouldn't know what was going on in his life. And then she says her, because she says, I lost my voice earlier this week. Don't know why she's telling us that. And so we put off this conversation about our son's school, where he was going to go. Now I know that is the crux of the matter. I think that was potentially why they feel the family did this. But She's literally, realistically, she's been asked, who has a problem big enough with Dan to want to shoot him? And she says, me, because we're having this issue around our son's schooling.
Wild.
I know a lot of people didn't love him, but not anyone who would like hate him.
Okay.
He meant well. Everyone that knew him
Okay.
knows that he means well, but he can be a little like argumentative.
Right.
But not he didn't owe anyone money. He didn't do anything except work and take care of his kids. He wasn't involved in anything bad.
Quick one here. She's just contradicted what she said earlier when she was asked, was there anything going on in his life or anyone he was worried about? She said, I wouldn't know. We've been separated for 2 years. We've been divorced for a year. So if there was something going on, I wouldn't know. And now she's saying, he didn't do anything except work and take care of his kids. He wasn't involved in anything bad. Again, both can't be true. You cannot have that knowledge and at the same time say, I didn't have that knowledge.
I can't believe this is happening.
I know. And he was a professor at the law school, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And your divorce has been 2 years or the total separation, I'm assuming?
Total separation's been 2 years. Our divorce was finalized last summer around this time.
Okay.
He wouldn't do this to himself. He has a girlfriend now.
Do you know his girlfriend?
I met her once in the last couple of weeks. She was visiting. She lives in New York.
Okay. Do you know anything about her?
I know some things about her. She's also a law professor. I know she's recently divorced and she has a son. I don't know if her divorce is final, but I think recently divorced.
Where's she a law professor at?
At NYU.
Okay.
And they seemed very happy, and I mean, I think that was a really good thing in his life. He seemed really happy about it. She came down here, she met the boys, and I met her, and she told me how great she loved the boys. You know, like it seemed fine.
Did she ever stay at the house with him?
Just
Stop
at one
her.
time.
When was that?
Do they see the difference when she's telling that story about the girlfriend from all the other really over-explained things that she did? That was really straightforward and simple. I had a real clear picture in my head of what she was talking about. There was this girlfriend. She's a professor at NYU. She's been seeing him for a while, makes him look really happy, came down and they met. I've got a really clear picture of what's going on there. I believe all of that. And just the way her words flow, they're less qualified. There's none of this story selling that was going on with some of the other stuff. And that's kind of how I think she tells the truth, which is very, very typical. When people are truthful, it's just really straightforward. It's unqualified. It's just, she's talking there about events that happened without explaining them and, over explaining them and telling us why they happened and how they happened and when they happened. And so I think that's how she is truthful, which makes me then even more suspicious of some of the ways she acted earlier on.
I remember because I just got back from being with my family in South Florida. Sorry.
It's okay. You're doing great.
So what date was it? I went with my family. It was my dad's 70th birthday and we went home for it. So his birthday was the 5th. I left Monday the 30th. So she must have come into town Saturday, the evening of the 28th.
What month? June? This past June.
Just now. So June 28th. And then she was there with the boys the 29th, and then I met her on the morning of the 30th when I picked up the kids to take them to South Florida.
Do you know when she left?
I could probably find it like in my email and stuff. I think she was here for like one more day, and then Danny went up to New York because I was with the kids in Miami for a good long while I was there. I drove back July 10th, so I was there almost 2 weeks. And so I think he went up the next day.
Okay. Do you know her name?
I do. It's Amy Adler. Oh my gosh, she's
A.D.
Adler.
And she's a professor of law at
Yeah.
NYU?
Yeah.
What kind of car does she drive?
I have no idea. I didn't know she has a car. She lives in New York City.
Well, so, I mean, she was driving down. I mean, she flew down here, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have her phone number?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how long they were dating even. It seemed kind of serious if she met the kids, but I don't really know. He's been going up to New York for like conferences and stuff since Lincoln was about a few months old. So he's been going up there 3.5 years. So my guess was that they might have known each other for a long time, but have been dating. I don't know how long.
Well, let me ask
Okay.
you, does his relationship...
I had actually not not noticed this, but it's not highlighted on my sheet. But just looking there, she's asked, "Do you have her phone number?" And she says, "I don't," and then goes into a long story about how long they've been dating, how the fact he would go up to New York for 3.5 years, all stuff that she wasn't asked for. So it's really important for her to set some kind of scene here. Is she trying to suggest that the relationship had been going on a long time behind her back and behind Amy's husband's back? Is that what she's doing there? But she does seem to be throwing things out there because she's asked, "Do you have a phone number?" And what do we get? "I don't have the phone number, but I do have a life story to tell you."
with her have anything to do with your all's divorce?
No.
No, it had nothing to do with
No.
an extramarital affair or anything?
No, but the only thing I'm thinking is Amy, I don't know what Amy's full divorce situation is like, so if you're gonna think of someone who's not thrilled with Danny, I don't know how happy her husband or ex-husband is with the situation.
You want me to pause it there or keep going?
No, I think that just backs up. She was leading to that point there. She did say the only thing I'm thinking is, which is when she was telling us about going down to Florida, she was actually letting us in on her thought process a little bit. So she was going, "I went for my dad's birthday, so that was that date. So the day I would have left would have been that." And when people let you into their thought process, like thinking out loud, that's really hard to fake, thinking out loud. So that's generally a truthful thing. And then here, she's not letting you into her thought process. She's saying, "The only thing I'm thinking, really, your ex-husband's just been shot. Your kids are God knows where, in God knows what state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, the only thing I'm thinking is Amy's husband." So I think this is that whole thing around, he's been going to New York for quite a while. And, sowing a little seed there, I think, was just to throw this, think of Amy's husband. He might not be happy. This interview could have been going, this affair could have been going on for quite a while.
Do you know anything about him?
I don't know anything about him.
So you know Amy Adler, she's a professor at NYU. She was down here from the end of June through the first part of July.
I think just a few days.
Right.
Yeah.
As visiting, but he'd been seeing her when he goes to New York on these conference trips.
Well, he's in New York in the summertime. We have a week on, week off schedule with the boys. So whenever I have them for a week, he goes up to New York for a week. So he's been spending a lot of time up there.
Did he relate to you that he'd been seeing her up in New York, or that's where they met, or anything of that nature?
He didn't tell me about it, but I feel like he was pretty vocal with like our friends and people probably since December about her being his girlfriend. So
Okay. Who would be his best friend?
When we were still together, he had two best friends. Neither of them are in Tallahassee.
Okay.
Oh my God, I'm completely blanking on their last names right now.
That's
There's
okay.
Matt Price, that was his best man at our wedding. And Josh Berman, who, Matt is in DC and Josh is in New York. Actually, he has a friend, I don't know if they're so close, but he and the boys sleep over at their house a lot. They're in Cairo, Georgia.
Okay.
That's probably his closest friend here.
Do you know his name?
His name's Alex Greenberg. He's a veterinarian in town, and they've got kids around the same
Want to pause it or keep going?
No, keep going.
age as our kids.
He's a vet here in town.
Mm-hmm. And I think
Do you know
they're
where his
close.
office is?
I don't. Maybe in Cairo.
Oh, he doesn't have office in
I
Tallahassee.
don't think so.
He's a vet in Cairo.
Well, their house is in Cairo. His
Right.
wife is a dentist. I don't know if her practice is in town or in Cairo either. His wife is Maya, M-Y-A.
Okay. You're being very helpful, okay, and I know it's hard.
I'm trying. I just
You're doing
can't
fine.
believe what's happening.
You're doing fine. I know it's all the shock, I know it's coming to you all at once. Okay?
I don't know who would do this.
Okay, well, it appears from what we've seen so far that someone intentionally hurt Danny. Okay, intentionally. Okay, I don't
You
think.
don't know who it is?
No. And I don't
What if
think.
they come after the boys?
I don't think that's going to be. I have no indication.
First time bringing up the boys, coming after the boys.
Yeah, so what are we at? 20 minutes.
20 minutes in.
The detective says to her, we think that someone intentionally hurt him. So one person, we think that someone intentionally hurt him. She says, do you know who it is? If you watch this 5-hour whole police interview and situation, the amount of time she tries to get information about the investigation is quite surprising. I've never seen someone do that before, but she's very interested in how they found her at the restaurant. She's very interested in how they got her car from the restaurant back to the police station. She's very, very interested in the internals of the police investigation. And do you know who it is? I think is, that's actually a really interesting question to ask. Like, do you know who did it? Do you know who it is? And she says, what if they come after the boys? Now that them is a bit, that can be, you can use they for one person that you don't know very well. But she says when she's told someone, she doesn't say, what if that person comes after the boys or what if he comes after the
Wow.
boys? She says, what if they come after the boys? As if it's talking about more than one person, an organization or something like that.
She was definitely not using that. Yes, that is.
Well, I thought you'll take that one and go with it. Yeah.
That I never noticed that. That's so good.
Indication at this time that that's a threat, okay? But the boys are going to stay with you. You're not going back over to Trescott, okay?
No, I don't live there anymore.
I know you don't. But the boys are going to stay with you, okay? And they'll be fine.
I don't know if I can take care of them like this.
All right. Where's your closest family at?
My family actually just talked to my brother this morning. My parents are in Coral Springs.
Okay.
And my brother, I have 2 brothers, but I'm very close to one of them who is in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that's where you're from.
So once again, she doesn't answer the question. She's asked, where's your closest family at? So that's a where question. She were expecting a location of some sort there. And she says, my family, actually, I just talked to my brother this morning. So my parents are in Coral Springs. So for some reason, brother is top of her mind. And that she throws that out without answering the question. And she goes on to say, my brother that I have 2 brothers, but I'm very close to one of them who's in Fort Lauderdale. So look, it would be a legitimate answer to where's your closest family at? My closest family is in my brother. He's in Fort Lauderdale. But no. She goes, where's your closest family at? I talked to my brother this morning. Well, that's strange. That's very, very strange. And what's the reason for that? I don't know. I'm not inside her head. Is it just that Charlie is in her mind because he's caused this situation and that is, just the first thing that jumps out of her head? Or is this a little bit of, you want someone else to look at as well as Amy's husband, ex-husband? Why not think about Charlie too? Subtly.
So We got about I can keep going. You tell me, Jack. We can keep like if you have to do anything, or if you want to, we can end at 3, or we can keep going. You tell me what you want to do.
I'm good as long as you are, but don't you have basketball to watch?
Nah, I think people want it. This is fascinating. People can have it on. Like, I think we keep going. I know you have a ton of notes. I mean, we haven't even got to. There's other people that come in, and she acts differently with different people. We haven't even got to that yet. And I know you did a lot of. Obviously, I've done a lot of work doing this. So let's keep going. Thank you so much. Please, guys, please make sure you're following him on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all the places. This is amazing. So we're gonna keep going here, folks. And like, if obviously this is like a however long interview, we could always do a part 2 at some point. But at this point, we're gonna keep going, folks. So thanks for being here, everyone.
Originally, I take it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
His family's in Canada. Did they know? Did you tell them?
No, they haven't been
Oh
notified
my
yet.
God. His parents are gonna be devastated.
Okay. This is what I want to do, okay? This is what happened, okay? Daniel's been shot, okay? And we have to find out why and who did this. Can you help with that?
I will try.
Okay. What I want to do right now to try to expedite things, okay? But I need your permission, is I want to take your cell phone and download all the information out of it.
Sure.
Do you have a problem with that?
No.
Okay. And then we're gonna make arrangements for you to get the kids, or we'll get the kids somehow, okay? Because the kids are at daycare, right?
Yeah.
And they're gonna need their mother,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. I gotta get a form for you to sign, and then I'm gonna get the phone started, okay?
Oh my God. I have a lot of friends.
I know.
How do you know that?
Well, you had 2 of them.
That's such a weird. I'm not an analyst, but like I have. Thanks, Wendy. You have a lot of friends. Cool.
Well, look what came before. I have a lot of friends. Oh my God. Oh my God is like this key phrase that she uses, especially when she's going to chuck something out there to the detective. So it's, oh my God, I've just realized I've got a lot of friends. And once more, she's going to go on and say, well, what if one of these friends knew how badly Dan treated me, so arranged for this murder to happen? So once more, the concept of why this happened in her head is close to her, or, very, very close to her. And the detective says, I know. And she's like, how do you know that? Once again, really interested in the process of this investigation and trying to get from the detective how much he actually knows about her.
There for a last-minute lunch date, right?
So good.
Last minute.
Well, I mean, that you went up there, you're sitting with them, you have friends.
I do. What I meant by it is that Danny didn't treat me very well, and I'm
Okay.
so scared that maybe someone did this. Not because they hate Danny, but because they thought this was good somehow.
Oh, are you saying that you think maybe one of your friends would have done something
Who
like
would
this?
do this?
I don't know.
No.
That's why I'm.
First thing I noticed there is that she's talking about the shooting of her ex-husband as this. So she's downplaying the crime that's happened, which we see guilty people do quite a lot. The example I like to use is that if someone steals money from a till, if you ask them, did you steal that money? They may say something like, I didn't take it. And they've downplayed steal to take. And here she's talking about the shooting as this. Can be shorthand, but she's always talking about the shooting as this. She's downplaying the severity of what happened. And once more, throwing friends under the bus.
That's why you're here, and that's why we're talking. Would you ever ask someone to do something like this?
Not in a million years.
Okay.
A yes, no question. Would you ever ask someone to do something like this? No, I wouldn't. Yes, I would. And she doesn't say yes or no. She just says not in a million years, which is turning the severity of it up to 11, if you like. A no would do. You can't, would you do something like this, or would you ask someone to do something like this? A no would do. No just covers it off entirely. But for some reason, she wants to be really sure that he knows she would not do it by turning up the severity and going, never in a million years. Not proof that she did it, not proof that she's guilty. You have to see lots more repeated stuff from someone. But when someone doesn't answer a yes, no question and turns the severity up, that's a data point I'm very interested in.
Do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you?
No.
What good does it serve?
I made my brother, his name is Charlie, the one I'm really close to. He makes a lot of jokes in bad taste, and it was a joke he made. He bought the TV for me this morning that got broken, and I was talking to him about whether it made sense to pay to fix it or whether I should get a new one, and it was always his joke that, like, he knew Danny treated me badly, and it was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV, so instead I got you this TV.
Okay.
I mean, he would never. He's my big brother, and he's been taking care of me since I was little, but he would never. And I told that to the repair guy this morning.
Right. That's okay.
I said, he asked me how much it cost, and I said I didn't know because it was a gift, because my brother said it was cheaper than a hitman. It was my divorce present.
Okay.
Such a horrible thing to say. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I feel like I'm just gonna pause. I feel like I'm learning from you here, because the question was, what good does it serve? And then this whole entire thing about her brother and the TV again. That was not the question.
Correct. But also, she started by saying, I made, and then she stops, and she restarts the sentence. My brother, the one whose name is Charlie, the one I'm close to, he makes a lot of jokes in bad taste. But she was going to start off saying she did something I made. What was it she was going to say? Did this hitman joke actually come from her and not Charlie? I don't know. But she started to say I made, and then goes on to put it all on Charlie. Another thing that would make me think that she may be the originator of the hitman joke is she apologizes for it. She says it's such a horrible thing to say, I'm so sorry. Well, your brother said it in your storytelling there, so why are you apologizing for it? And once more, she then throws in some more. Even my family who felt like I'd been mistreated would never do something like this. Never. Again, it's the only thing in her head is that someone close to her is responsible for what happened to Dan.
But even my family, who felt like I had been mistreated, would never do something like this. Never.
Well, you guys have been divorced for over a year. Has there been any type of abuse in that time?
Of him towards me?
Yeah.
No. It's, he's litigious, and we have an ongoing case because the house, it shouldn't be in my name anymore, but when we settled the case of our divorce, he said, one of the agreements the court said was, Danny wanted to stay in the house. They said, you can have the house, but you need to pay her half of the amount of what the house is worth. And he agreed to it, and then months passed, and he just never paid me. Okay. And so we have ongoing litigation where I filed a motion in the court to have him pay me what he said he would, and he filed a counter motion for sanctions against my attorney because he thought that she did something wrong, which she didn't. But so, I mean, she withdrew from the case and was going to serve as a witness. So she's not going to lash out at him for it. She's using the legal process to do it.
So much detail.
Boring.
My parents are, very angry towards him. But even when they're around my kids, they would never say a bad word about my kid's father. They're really, really careful about that. They just like him, but they know he's the father of my kids. They would never They would never do that.
Right.
I don't know who would be angry enough with him
Well, that's what I have to find out.
Right.
to do something like this.
She's got that thing going on again where she's throwing it to her family. Whether that is a deliberate tactic of here's a suspect I think you should look at. And there's almost something sly about the way she does it because she wasn't asked about that. But she decides to say, oh, by the way, my parents were really angry. They disliked him, she said. And then she finishes that off by saying, I don't know who would be angry enough. How does she know what enough anger is? And why did she think anger was what had caused Dan's shooting? She still hasn't been told what was there. But she, I'm really and we've seen this time and time and time again from her. She believes that or knows that the shooting of Dan was very close to her. It involved friends and love, and anger was the cause of it.
Now, I know you're not a body language analyst, but I just watching this, from watching her in this and her testimony, certain times she's always does these weird hand movements. I don't know if you've noticed that, but to me, like I don't know. It's just
No, the one thing I did notice, which is more behavioral than words, is throughout this 5-hour thing, she plays 3 different characters, which makes me think she's a bit of a manipulator because when she's talking to the detective, like we're looking at now, she is helpful, subservient, and sobs, and just trying my very best to help you by giving you every little bit of information I can give you. Then she has to deal with a victim advocate for a while, and she tries to set herself up on the level of this victim advocate. Hey, that's like I've got a skirt like that, and she lightens considerably from how she's talking to the detective, and she's actually trying to manipulate the victim advocate to find out information of what's happening out there in the room outside where they're starting to investigate the murder of Dan. And also, I think maybe get the victim advocate to advocate on her behalf. Oh, she seems like a nice woman. She said, I look great and have a nice skirt. That she can't be a murderer. And then her friend comes in at some point, and she then plays a completely different role again with this friend. And she really wants to be seen to do the right thing. As we've seen 20 odd minutes now, and she hasn't wanted to be seen to do the right thing. But all of a sudden, when her friend shows up, she thinks it's really important that there's a rabbi at the hospital for Dan because he was very religious and would have appreciated that. And all this care and concern around the way the boys are handled and so on. The detective has said to her already, and you can go and get the boys there at daycare. And she doesn't go, how soon can I do that? How quickly can I go and get my kids and hold them safe because their dad's just been shot, an event that will traumatize them for all their lives? No, she's sitting there going, yeah, so Charlie made this gag about a hitman, which is really bad taste.
this is great.
The brother that you're real close to, I have to do a lot of elimination at the same time. The brother that you're really close to, the one that joked about the TV and everything, what'd you say his name was?
Charlie.
Charlie, and he's in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what kind of car he has.
He has like 5 cars.
Can't tell me all of
He
them.
drives I think one of them is an unmarked police car.
Oh, really?
He's a bit of a character.
Okay.
So I don't know what he's driving at the time.
Right.
But I'll tell you, he's a periodontist, and he has this practice where he works from early in the morning till late at night. So if you ever wanted to find his whereabouts, he's working all day long until early in the morning till late at night, always driving to a different office working.
Oh, he goes to different offices?
Yeah, he works in different offices all over South Florida and does implants for people. And he works really hard all the time. He has a girlfriend, so he's pretty much accounted for all the
Charlie,
time.
is that his first name?
Right.
Charlie's his
What was
first
that?
name.
He's pretty much accounted for
Charles.
all the time, right?
Yeah. In case you didn't get the message, Charlie's very busy and has lots of things on, which is a resume statement. It's what a great guy Charlie is, and here's how hard he works. And he's got a girlfriend, so he's got a girlfriend. He couldn't be a murderer. That's obviously how these things work. But really interesting, the detective asked her what kind of car Charlie has. Now, from all that, the correct answer was Charlie has 5 cars. Yeah. What she says is, I don't know what he was driving at the time. Why? You weren't asked what he was driving at the time. Is it in your head that there was a car spotted or something like that, and you're wanting to cancel him out or whatever it is? But I don't know what he was driving at the time.
Another thing I'll let you know about the cars is, so he has like a Ferrari, and in the trial she can't admit that she, like the prosecutor, like he has nice cars, he has a Ferrari, right? She's like, I don't know what kind of car he has. She won't admit it. Like she can't admit that like he has a Ferrari. Like it's another thing that comes up later in the trials. Like she like it's such a simple thing to just say yes, he had a Ferrari, but she won't admit it in the trial. It's wild.
She does not like yes, no questions.
No, she
I
doesn't.
think Charles is his legal name. No one calls him that.
What's his last name?
Adelson.
What's his middle?
J-A-Y.
Same spelling, Adelson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god.
What?
What? Oh my gosh.
What?
Thank you.
Bam, 2 oh my gods in a row there.
All the oh my gods. And the next thing she's going on to say is, I can't believe this is happening, which she said a few times during this interview. That's subtly different from I can't believe this has happened. So really what we're here for is an event that has happened in the past, which is the shooting of her ex-husband. And so what is happening right now is that she's helping the police, or the appearance is she's helping the police give as much information of that as possible to solve and maybe work out who it is that shot her husband. That's what's happening. So is that what she can't believe is happening? Is, there is no, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened to Dan in past tense. This, the shooting is the big traumatic thing that happened a couple of hours before this, but she's happening in the present tense. So potentially she's just feeling really stressed right now about having to navigate her way through this conversation.
Oh, this is happening.
Okay, all right. Let me go get the form for the phone.
Do I need to be read my Miranda rights or something if you're gonna look at my phone?
I can read you Miranda if you want to hear that.
I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure I'm being.
I have no
protected.
reason. I have no reason at this point to suspect you in this incident. Okay.
I couldn't tell from the way you were talking to me in the car if I was a suspect.
Well, no, and the reason was I didn't want to get into everything until we got up here.
Is he
Okay.
still in the hospital?
He's at the hospital, yes. Yes.
Got another thing for you.
Yes.
So I cannot tell you how much time I've spent on this week. To do a deep analysis takes a lot of time, and I keep spotting things and I keep spotting things, and then I'll bring someone else in and get them to watch the video and they'll spot some other things. I've just spotted another one, which is every time he says he's going to get the forms to get the phone, she throws in something to delay that happening. Earlier on, he said, I got to get a form for you to sign, and then I'm going to get the phone started. Okay. And she says, oh my God, I have a lot of friends. And then we go into the friends story. So that's delaying getting this form to get the phone signed. And we have that again, where he says, all right, let me go and get the form for the phone. And she talks about Miranda rights. And she delays again this going to get the forms for the phone.
So interesting.
Yes.
And nobody knows he's there.
Well, you know now, and while I'm going to get this phone taken care of, I'm going to have a victim advocate come in here, and hopefully you can supply her with his parents.
Oh my God.
I'm assuming his parents would be his next of kin.
He's a sister he's really close with.
Where is she?
They're all in Canada. He's Canadian.
Okay. All right, they live in Canada.
They all live in Canada.
Okay.
His family's all in Canada.
Okay.
They're gonna think I did it.
No, now, just don't jump to conclusions on that.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
All right, let me go get the form for the phone, okay?
Man, I really didn't realize how many times she says, oh my God.
I didn't.
Yeah. And I think that's really it for that first part of the interview. But once again, she's thrown herself in there as a suspect by going, they're going to think it was me, which is, I don't think she's so cunning and manipulative that there was not stress for her in that situation. I don't think for a second, I think that there is certainly a lot of drama being added by her with all these, oh my God, I've got friends. But, you know, it would take something really special for there not to be any stress there. And when we're stressed, that's when things just come flying out of our mind that hasn't gone through that filter where we, you know, think what's the right thing to say in this situation. And they're going to think it was me. You look at that. That's the first part of that police interview. And you know, hopefully that detective guy is going, man, she thinks this is really close to home.
So is there like a certain part you want me to, like a other, like there's like a timestamp you want me to go to? You want me to keep going from here? Like you tell me.
I think this is a good place to go. There's the first part of the interview. I'm more than happy to come back for a second part. I haven't got
that would be
timestamps
great.
on the other bits that I've noticed. If you'll have me, you know, I'm inviting myself into your house. I very much
no.
realize.
Are you kidding me? Everyone, I don't know if let me put up the chat here. Thank you so much for being here for part 2 of Decoding Wendi Adelson. The first part got some of the best feedback I've ever done of a video. So thank you all so much for the comments, for following Jack on his channel and his podcast, all his links. Really appreciate it. It was, and just me watching it real time, I was like blown away by the information that Jack was giving us. And now I've added Julia Cowley. I mean, this is going to be, I think, really good, guys. So buckle up. And if you don't know Julia Cowley, she is a retired FBI agent and profiler. She spent 22 years in the FBI investigating violent crime, including serial killings and sex offenses, white-collar crime, public corruption, and civil rights. She was also a member of the FBI's evidence response team. Prior to joining the FBI, Julia was a special agent forensic scientist with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. She has a bachelor's degree in chemistry and a master's degree in forensic science, and she is the host of the Consult podcast. It's in the description. Please check it out. I'm telling you, it is really freaking good. I started listening to podcasts to catch up on cases I didn't used to, but now I do, and I can tell when there's good ones and bad ones, and it's a phenomenal podcast. So please check it out. And Jack is from Never a Truer Word. He runs the channel where he looks at statements from people in the news and analyzes their word choices to uncover deception and reveal the truth. Away from the channel, Jack has worked with law enforcement, private investigators, journalists, cold case teams, and corporate HR departments to give them insight into the words used by persons of interest. Find him at neveratruerword.com. Please subscribe to his YouTube channel. All the things also in the description of the channel of this live. Also in there is the link to the first episode we did. If you missed it, check it out. So without further ado, let me bring on Julia and Jack. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for being here. And Julia, I wanted to start with you. If first you could describe your podcast to the people, tell them what you do. And then if you could just talk about how important police interviews are for when you were investigating cases.
Sure. So my podcast called The Consult, Real FBI Profilers. And I do the show with 3 of my former colleagues who are also retired FBI profilers, Angela Surser, Susan Kostler-Drew, and Bob Drew. And we all work together in the unit, behavioral analysis unit, when we were in the FBI. And we look at both solved and unsolved cases from a behavioral perspective. It's a completely different perspective than typical true crime podcasts. And in terms of interviews, one of the things, and this show is going to be really good, and it's going to be very similar to what we do in the BAU. You have an expert in statement analysis alongside an expert in behavioral analysis, and you're looking at these interviews. And from my perspective, I know Jack is really concentrating on the different word choices used. Of course, I look at that as well, but also looking at discrepancies, looking at common themes that they might bring up. And one of the things that I'm really looking for is something that might be an area of investigative focus that the individual is subconsciously brought up, or areas where that they think are important to them, and what can we learn about their personality traits and characteristics? What is important? What do they value? And some of that can come through during the interview. And I think that comes through a lot in Wendi Adelson's interview of who she is as a person and what she values.
Oh man, I'm so excited to get you guys' analysis here. And I think, and I said this to them before, but I think what's great about both you guys is you kind of, this was new to you. I mean, you might have had a little background, but you've never seen her interview before. So like you're both coming in with a fresh perspective. Some people like myself may be a little biased, but you guys are coming in with the fresh perspective. So very excited to get that. Julia, because you watched like the first part that we went over. Was there anything that stood out to you behaviorally or just any observations you had before we start this second part?
Sure, I agree with Jack's analysis. In terms of the TV set, I think anytime, and I know Jack pointed this out, anytime someone is offering these unnecessary details, that's an area of focus. Doesn't mean they're lying, doesn't mean it just tells you, okay, this is important to them. Why are they adding this in? What is going on? And that's just an area that you go back and you ask about, you inquire about, you want to find out why that's important. So the fact that Jack keyed in on that, I wholeheartedly agree. The only other thing I want to bring up about it is that I know Jack had brought up when she said she didn't have time to take a shower. And I agree with Jack's assessment that she's trying to say, oh, I was so busy, I didn't even have time to take a shower, so I certainly couldn't have committed a murder. So she's really trying to show how busy she was. But another thing I think about that is that she has a habit of doing this throughout the interview, is really focusing on how she doesn't look good. And so I think that's just see, I didn't even have time to take a shower. Look how bad I am. I'm in crisis. And she continues to point that out through the interview. If you're truly in crisis, I don't think you need to continue to point that out to people. So the thing I'm getting is that she's just trying to show us, look how horrible this is. I didn't shower. Look what a mess I am. But what that also tells us is that looks are important to her. People's perception. She wants everyone to know I look better than this normally, but I'm in crisis. And she repeats that throughout. It's a theme. It's a theme.
Yeah, she even says when they're gonna check her hands for the gunpowder residue. She's like, "Oh, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't even wash my hands." Yeah, and she, Jack she talks to the advocate, and she's like, "Oh, that's a nice like." There's a lot of stuff there. One thing I want to ask you, Julia, and maybe this means nothing, but something I noticed, and you guys haven't watched the testimony, but she does this in the interview and in the testimony, and I might mean nothing, but she does these hand gestures, Julia. I don't know if you noticed her, like when she starts like explaining. Did you notice that at all? Could that possibly mean something, or is that just like?
I think she's expressive with her hands, so potentially, if she stops using her hands when she's trying to explain something, then you want to look at, okay, what's the difference? When is she using her hands? I'm cautious about body language, but I do think, I talk with my hands. I'm doing it right now. It's like my way to express. And it's like, are you listening to me? But I think it's when you notice the change of when she's using her hands or not using her hands. Is there something that has changed in the interview? Is that a different topic? Is it a problem for her? Is she more comfortable? I think that's probably better suited for a body language expert, but it's certainly something that I would pay attention to and just say, okay, is there some kind of difference in the questioning here? And she's no longer as expressive, or she becomes more expressive. What is it?
All right, very interesting. All right, folks. So now Jack sent me some queued up spots we're going to go to in the interview. Again, please check out the Consult Pod. Give it 5 stars. Don't be lazy. Also, check out Jack's, all his links, YouTube, Twitter, both of them. All their links are in there. Please, and the mods are sharing them. Please check them out. So I'm going to go right now. We're going to share the screen. Here we go. The first timestamp. Here we go, everybody. Let's check it out. And then Jack and Julia are going to stop me, and we'll go through it.
It's fine. I want to figure out who this is because I'm honestly worried.
Well, let me ask you. If you found out that this was someone that you personally know, would that change your mind about what should happen to that person?
About what should happen to that person?
For prosecution purposes.
No.
Is there any way that you would think
if
somebody
somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
regardless of who it is?
I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother, but I don't think it was my family.
Okay.
Anyone outside my immediate family, that's a tough one.
Okay.
But I don't think my immediate family did this. So
Okay.
if it's anybody else, yeah.
Okay. Would you think that this guy Charlie would even be capable of doing something like this?
No. No.
It's just talk.
He's the Joker.
Okay. All right. Based on the
First of all, what an answer there. What an and by the way, this, you guys, if you haven't seen the trials, it comes up in the trial and she lies about it. She says, no, I didn't say that, like I wouldn't want to prosecute my family. What do you mean? Someone got murdered, and if it was your family, like, no, they should get off. Sorry, Jack, go ahead.
No, that's all right. I think Julia probably knows better than I, but this is a great question to ask someone. What do you think what penalty should the guilty person suffer? Because a truly innocent person will just say whatever the actual penalty is for the crime, that's what the person should suffer. A guilty person is going to go, well, wait a minute, this applies to me, so I'm going to be very circumspect about what I say, which Wendi is. The first thing that happens is when she's asked the question, what do you think should happen to that person? She repeats the question back, which buys herself thinking time, because her brain is going, I don't have the words to answer this question properly. I haven't thought this one through. I don't have a prepared answer. I don't have anything yet to send to my mouth that's going to make sense. So I'm going to buy myself some thinking time by repeating the question back about what should happen to that person, she says. The detective says for prosecution purposes. And she says, no, if somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, which is not the same thing as the murderer should be jailed for life or should face the chair or anything like that. She talks about the legal process. So a bit of distance there from what's happening. And then she just offers up her family. He says, regardless of who it is. And she's like, well, if it was my brother, well, why is that the first name that comes into your head when, you're asked, regardless of who it is? And then she says, but I don't think it's my family. So she doesn't say, well, if it was my brother, but I don't think it was him. She says, but my brother, I don't think it was my family. So almost as if she's actually building a conspiracy right there in front of her eyes with her answer to that question. Then she says, but I don't think my immediate family did this. So if it's anybody else, yeah. So this question has really rattled her because her answer, she delays giving an answer. And then the answer that she gives is not one that's dead reassuring. You know, someone has just murdered your ex-husband, lock him up for life.
What do you
It's
think?
leakage. It's leakage. And she does it several times through her interview. She's leaking out information. I think, as Jack has pointed out, it's hard to lie. It's cognitively more difficult to lie, I should say, for people. And a lot of times their true feelings and emotions will come out when they're not expecting a question. That is a very standard type of law enforcement question. What do you think should happen? In my training, we were always told, be cautious of somebody that says, well, it depends if what should happen to them. I mean, if they have remorse, maybe they should just get life in prison. Or if they soften it, you have to wonder, are they involved? Do they know who's involved? And she doesn't even do that. She just says, well, if it's my brother, I don't think he should be, he should walk scot-free. No, she doesn't say that, but it is so interesting that she automatically brings up her brother. It's not the only time she does that in the interview. To me, I mean, I can't imagine most of us have a family member who's been killed and you automatically are thinking, like, I don't think it's my brother.
Right.
I mean, most of us would be like, no,
there's no way.
It wouldn't even come into our heads.
Right.
So
the other thing is that at the end he says, is it just talk? Right. And she does not say, yes, it's just talk. He's got a big mouth, but he wouldn't do something like this. She doesn't deny it. She goes, he's a joker. That's not the same thing as saying, yeah, he's got a big mouth, but he wouldn't do it, or he's, would not hurt anyone in the world, let alone Dan or my ex-husband. He just goes, he's a joker, which is not denying the statement that's put to him about Charlie.
Interesting. All right, so let's go now. By the way, folks, I don't know if you saw Jack's post on Instagram. He ran out of printer ink after all the things, all the things that he went over. He ran out of printer ink. So, should I go to 226 now, or keep
Yeah,
going?
go.
Okay.
I would go for 226 now. Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy, here comes Jane. For folks who don't know, this is her friend who's a teacher at the college, who's also alleges to be a friend of Jeff Lacoste. But boy, well, we'll see. Here we go.
You know how he is?
He's not good, Jane.
Really?
I was driving up the street and I saw like the tape and I just thought, oh, maybe there's like an electrical outage or something. Like I saw the street blocked.
So you
I was driving into town. I was running errands. I was meeting some friends for lunch and I drove up Trescott because it's the shortcut. And so I drive up Trescott and I see the tape and I was like, I guess there was like an electrical outage because sometimes we'd have trees that would fall or whatever. And so I turned around and didn't think anything of it. I was at lunch with two friends and the officer shows up.
Yeah.
And I've been here.
This is the exact same thing for me, where she just goes through storytelling mode. Why, when you're telling your friend that you're driving down Trescott, would you tell her why you were there? It's a shortcut. This is an automatic loop that she's got going through her mind. That is, I don't know why she was in Trescott, right? It was not by chance, and it was not a shortcut. So even when she's telling her friend she was in Trescott, she's got to go, because it's a shortcut. She didn't even tell her friend where she was going. The friend must be going, shortcut from where to where? You haven't told me any of this. You've just told me you were on a shortcut. So once again, and she's remarkably consistent with the things I'm suspicious of, or the things I have questions of. She's very consistent in talking about them the same way. I did this, and then having to explain why she did it. So it was not a chance that she was just driving down Trescott because it's a shortcut.
What do you think, Julia? Did you notice anything?
I agree. Her priority is to tell a story. That's exactly what she's done it from the very beginning of the interview, to get out this story, this version of events. And I agree, it's an area to focus on, and I don't believe that she's being genuine in her reasoning for going down that road.
All right, let's go to 234. Okay.
Me neither.
What I thought of.
I just keep picturing the kids.
Right. No. So there's no point in doing that. Don't do that. So
When Lynn gets here, I'm gonna just ask her to take the kids to her house. Would that be
Instead of my
unreasonable?
house?
I think
Wouldn't
that's
that be
much
more
better.
reasonable?
Is that better? She has a TV. They can
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
TV.
yeah,
I know, but
Yes.
they've been there before.
A
Yeah.
bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
take
they're
them
very
there.
comfortable there.
They
Take them
have
there.
children of their own.
They've got 4 kids. They're grown, but
take them there. Take them
okay,
there.
yeah.
Because
All right, I'm gonna go make sure that I don't miss her.
Okay.
thank you.
Lynn Grossman, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
This is Sarah, by the way.
Hi, Sarah. Are you a victim advocate?
I am.
I said you used to be a victim advocate. Was I
That's
right?
not true. Yeah, I've done lots of stuff like that.
I
but-
recognize your name, and then she explained.
What's your last name?
Latour. I've only been here about 2.5 years.
I am losing my shit.
Well, that would be appropriate. I think you should do that. I think if you don't do that, that's
Jane,
not right.
who would have done this?
I have just
And
one
are they
idea.
going to come after my kids? Or me? Who's next?
Is Jeff this much of a lunatic?
Once again, we've just got her bringing in the closeness of herself to the murder, that the person could be coming after her or after her kids, even asking her friend who could have done this. So we still have that circle of closeness in Wendy's mind. The murder is so close to her that it doesn't enter into her head that, this could be someone so far removed with a grudge against Dan she didn't know about. No, she's convinced that this is about her and her life, or close to her and her life as well.
Julie, did you notice? And one thing I noticed, I want either one of you know, when Jane comes in, they just start like laughing it up half the time. It makes me so angry. Like I don't know if that means anything. It might mean nothing on it. But anyway, go ahead, Julia. Or Jack, you can go first.
Go ahead, Jack.
I was only going to say, Julia, because you know more about these things than me. It appears to me there that Wendi is at the center of that interaction. I know she's sitting in the center of the screen, but she's kind of going, here's this person, here's that person. I said you were this. I don't know if you were this. And she is the social center of that world.
Right. I was going to point out, too, that throughout the interview, she keeps telling us what a mess she is, but she's anything but a mess. She is so astute. She's noticing things. She's remembering her manners. She's introducing. I mean, that's shocking. Oh, this is Sarah. She is not as distraught as she appears. She's holding it together very well. At one point, the other detective comes in. She's like, I don't know who that is. So she is registering who people are. Oftentimes when you're in shock, as she claims she is, which I don't believe she is, I don't see any signs of it. People are just swirling about you. There's lots of people coming in. I need this. I need you. And you're just kind of confused. And none of that is going on. But yet she feels the need to keep telling us this. She is so put together, despite the crying, despite the sniffling. She is taking notes. She is remembering things. She even, at one point, I think with Detective Isom, he relays the phone call that she had received from her realtor. He says something slightly wrong, and she's like, oh, no, she didn't say that. She accurately remembers that call, and even when in a situation you might be stressed and not able to remember. So the fact that she turns and introduces Sarah is just... It's surprising. It's surprising, especially when she's told us how out of it, how in crisis she is. You see it throughout.
So does that kind of lead you to believe that like she knew this was coming? She planned this. Like, is that as you're analyzing, is that your thought, or is it something else?
I think what it tells me, and I don't want to overstate what I am thinking. There are other things that make me think she likely had prior knowledge. But what it tells me is that in a stressful situation, she's holding it together. But she's trying to make us think she's not. I don't look good. Look at what a mess I am because I'm in crisis. But you see all these little details that she's picking up on. She's catching things. How'd they get my car? She's seeing every detail. This is not somebody who's just completely out of it, who can't parent. The other thing, well, I don't want to, we can keep going, but okay. There was something else. I can't remember I don't have a timestamp for it, but at some point I want to bring it up because I thought it was kind of a shocking thing that she said.
Just at the end as well, no, we're not really looking too deeply at Jane, but Jane says, is Jeff this much of a lunatic? And we've come to find out that Jane put Wendi and Jeff together, but thinks the guy's a lunatic. So she's obviously quite happy to let her friends run off with people she considers lunatics.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but it becomes clear that whoever was setting this up was clearly trying to set up Jeff to be the patsy. He's the rental car that the hitman rent is the exact like same color and type, almost the exact same color and type. He is leaving. He would have been leaving, but he changed his trip plans. But he would have been leaving at the exact same time that the hitman would have been leaving. Also, there's 2 times. Because the hitman went down twice. They went two different times. This was the second time. The first time they left, and guess what? Jeff was planning to be leaving both those times. So just a little background for you guys who may not know that.
Which in episode 1, Wendi was asked about Charlie. What kind of car does Charlie have? And she says he's got 5 cars. I don't know what he was driving at the time.
Yes.
And so that. Well, which cars were being driven at the time was certainly in her head. It's not proof of anything, but it's just very interesting that hangs together like that.
Very interesting. All right, so let's go back to the next timestamp, which is... Oh, should I keep going here?
No, I think the next one's, if you're going to the 4-hour 6 one.
Oh, there's 357 first.
Oh, 357 first, right. Okay, go for that.
All right.
Someone would sometimes
time isn't necessarily always on our side.
Because they want someone.
Well, they need to tell someone, because, you know, eventually he's going to need someone to make those decisions and stuff.
Okay. It looks bizarre to get these messages of like about book club and
How life kind of sometimes just keeps moving.
like recommending students for jobs and sort of waiting. Oh my god. I can't help but feeling like this is all my fault.
Why do you feel that way?
Why would somebody do this, right? Like if I had been still married to him, then there wouldn't be anyone that was angry, right? Like there wouldn't be any kind of disgruntled, wouldn't be Amy's husband. This can't be a random act of violence. This has to be on purpose. Someone did this for a reason.
I'll pause it there. Before you do your analysis, again, guys, please check out the Consult Pod. Check out Never a True Word. Check out all the links. They're all in the description if you're on the replay crew. Please check them out. Give the pod 5 stars. Do all the things. Go ahead, Jack.
This is just the same thing that we've seen time and time again, that she is talking about the murder being very close to her. In fact, she's actually saying, now, Julia, I don't know whether this is leakage or whether this is just trying to throw someone under a bus. This would not have happened if I'd still been married to him, i.e. the reason for him being dead is we're divorced. Now, she does try and say that's because then he wouldn't have met Amy and Amy's husband wouldn't have come down and randomly been really mad and killed Dan. But once more, she's the center of the whole thing, the whole reason why it happened. And I'd be really interested in Julia's take on this, actually, because I can't decide whether she is leaking, which I see all the time when I do statement analysis of little bits coming out here and there that lead you to the truth, or whether, because you're saying actually, and I agree with you, that she is very well composed as she talks, is she actually throwing out these little breadcrumbs for someone to go and follow, knowing full well that she's actually got an alibi for the morning and, you know, nothing can happen to her?
I'm struggling as well, trying to determine if she is so manipulative that she's trying to appear so helpful. This has to be related to me because this is our risk level, that she is that astute, that she's throwing out plausible reasons so it looks like she is helping, or if it's leakage, if that makes sense. She's very smart. It's just hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to say if it's done purposeful. She's certainly trying to lead them to someone else that's close to her, but not her brother.
Yeah. Also noticeable that there wasn't "oh my god" before that. I can't help thinking there was an "oh my god" and then a long pause. And after her "oh my gods," something always comes out that's potentially planned.
What's interesting to me is, because I've watched this way too many times, is I think she's trying to like leave breadcrumbs. I think she's trying to, but she doesn't leave the breadcrumb of Jeff Lacasse, her ex that she broke up with, you know, that she's trying to make that had to be brought out by Jane. She doesn't really introduce that, which I find interesting. She does try to put it on the Dan's girlfriend and Dan's girlfriend's ex-husband, but it's not her that like, and like, I'm almost at the thought that she's so diabolical because she had met with Jane like earlier in the week, and she like told her that like they were having issues, and she said stop. So like I'm meant to believe that she's so diabolical that she like planted that seed, hoping she would be in the interview and that she would be the person, so it wasn't her to do it. But I'm not the expert like you guys.
I mean, that's a good observation, Jay, that this isn't really related to me. This is more about Dan's choices, not my choices. So it's sort of pushing it off on him, but yet still, poor me. I feel like ultimately it's my fault because of the divorce. So feel sorry for me, but it just comes back to her need to blame Dan. She does it throughout the interview. So I think your observation is very well taken. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks. That means a lot. But it's probably because I've watched this like too many times, and I've frankly lost my mind.
Jay, that's what we do.
How many
That's what we
times
do. We
do you
watch these things. It depends on the case, but you could listening to a call or watching an interview or reading transcripts over and over again on cases if something doesn't make sense and trying to make sense of it. So the fact that you've done that, that's exactly what we would do in our work as well.
Very interesting. All right. So what's the next one? 406. All right.
Can I just give
Absolutely,
people something to watch before this next one?
Yes.
So the next one, Wendi is going to go over the timeline that again with the detective, and there's something that's called and so storytelling. So if I told you guys what I did this morning, I got up and I went for a run, then I watched the Formula One race, washed my car, and I did my laundry and went shopping. Okay, so that's me telling you what I did, right? It's just a list of events. If you said to me, you look really tired, what did you do this morning? Oh, well, the Formula One race was on at 8 o'clock this morning. And so I had to get up at 7 to go for a run. Got in and watched that. And I've been away all week. And so my laundry's been piling up and my car's filthy. And I'm using and so to explain what happened in the morning. It's a very different question. What did you do this morning? And you look tired. What have you been up to? So the and so is when someone is telling something that's happened, but they're explaining as well. And it can take the form of, and so this happened, or it can be, and I was very tired, and so I went to bed. So just watch out for how often she says and so in this next section, which says that she is, now, not necessarily means that she's hiding something or lying, but she is not just saying what happened, she's explaining what happened as she uses this and so storytelling.
All right, let's check this out. And so, all right.
My kids are not going to see the news, so I'm not worried about that. I guess you're just telling the story.
No, I'm saying that's probably why these people are trying to
Are
get a hold of you
calling,
now.
yeah.
I need to go back. I need a timeline here. What time did you wake up this morning?
A little before 8. I know that because the repairman was supposed to be here between 8 and 12, and I didn't set an alarm. So I woke up like, oh God, I need to put some clothes on and get ready.
Okay, what
Can I pause that?
at 8 o'clock?
Yeah. So you've got an and so there straight away. So, and I didn't set an alarm, so I woke up. So this is the start of the and so storytelling. Also, she's got a touch of the Amber Heards. She's asked what time she woke up, and she says a little before 8. I know that because Amber Heard, when she was giving testimony in that trial, would always tell us not just what happened, but she remembered it happening, or I know that happened because, and that is very different from just coming out and just talking about what you remember. You know, like you're going to tell a story, it's obvious you remember it. So why are you flagging up that you remember things? And this is why, you know, she's starting to explain why she knows something. She mentions that she put some clothes on. Now, my first thought there was I wondered if she was trying to be a bit flirtatious with the detective, you know, so I was naked at some point. But then I thought some more about that. I was like, is she flirtatious anywhere else? And I wondered if it was in the part you mentioned earlier, Julia, where she said she didn't have a shower, you know, like is she trying to say, you know, dirty, flirtatious, etc. And actually, I noticed very similar to you, Julia, she mentions being dirty a lot. So she mentions that she didn't have a shower. When they come to take gunshot residue from her hand, she says, I'm afraid to say I haven't washed my hands. And a little bit later on, when she's ID'd for buying alcohol, she says, I'm as old as dirt. So she mentions dirt a lot through this. It's one of the recurring themes, which could be, I'm no psychologist, that could be actually feeling a bit grubby about everything that's happened, if you know what I mean. Or to your point, Julia, which I would bow to your much greater knowledge and experience than mine, could be this wanting to show how disheveled she is, how much this has hit her, what a hard day she has had.
I think that's interesting. I'd want to know, is she a neat freak as well, and that not having showered and feeling grubby and not put together is bothering her, so that keeps coming out as well.
I can give you go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, in the first part, she said she didn't have a shower, but she did do the laundry. She was so pressed for time. It was do the laundry or have a shower, and she did the laundry. Not she carried on and did her work or anything like that. So go on. Is she a neat freak?
Well, I could tell you this: she wore the exact same outfit in the first trial and second trial, and the thought was, I mean, this is a speculation that like if someone Googled her, they wouldn't be able to tell if she was testifying, if like she was in two trials. That's like because she just wore the same outfit and they're Googling, oh, it's just the same trial. Like so that's just one thing. Another thing is she very clearly has blue contacts that she even mentions in this police interview that she talks to the liquor store guy. Oh, he mentions my blue eyes. Like she said that. So, and also, by the way, she has this lunch planned. Why is she not ready if she's supposed to be going to this lunch, which she then drives way out of the way? If you guys don't know this, there's the whole story about how she has to drive to the liquor store and it's the shortcut. There is a liquor store which is right next to the place she was going for the lunch, which is like 5 minutes away from her, and she decides to take this long roundabout just because. So just some things for you guys to know about her, maybe if you didn't have any background on that. I don't know if that means anything, but just interesting about old Wendi. So let's continue this here.
He called, or like my mom called. I could see what time the calls came in, but let's see, starting this morning. Yeah, my mom called at 8:09. And then the repair guy called at 8:08, and then my mom called at 8:09. I guess he called her to trying to sorry. So yeah, so then the repair guy called, and I don't remember exactly what time he got there, but like between 8 and 9, probably closer to 9.
Okay, what time did he leave?
Around 10. He could probably tell you, like he'll have a record of what time he called in to figure out whether to repair it or by anyone.
Okay.
So he'll have a record of his calls too.
Cool.
Before 10 a.m.
So what I've noticed is this is a completely different timeline from the first one. And what's changed here is that she gave the first timeline, and I'll accept some discrepancies. Our recall is not entirely proper, but I noticed when she gave the first timeline, for example, she was asked, what time did the repair guy get there? And she said, he called at 8 and left about 10. Right, so she didn't actually answer the question and say in the first time what time the repair guy got there. And we know, and I said at the time, she's trying to make that as big a window as possible. She wants to give the impression the repair guy was there between 8 and 10, but she didn't actually say that. And now, because the police have taken her phone by now, downloaded all the calls, downloaded all the data, and she has the phone back, she's suddenly being a lot more precise about what happened that morning. And so this timeline is much more precise. It's got much more in it, which is why I think when he was talking to her about getting the phone from her, she wasn't resistant. She said, yes, you can have it. But then every time he said, I'm going to go and get the forms, she would throw in an, oh my God, or do I have to have my Miranda rights read now? So I think she realized that once they'd got the phone, then the first timeline she tried to establish was kind of out the window. There. So lots of things change from all the way through this, from the first time she did it to the next time. By the way, the first time she gave the timeline, she had her phone, so she could have actually seen and opened up her phone and looked through her morning to see the things that happened, but she chose not to do that. She chose just to tell the police guy her version of what happened. So the TV guy there was there between 8 and 10. No, actually, he got there closer to 9. And then the other thing I got there was, I know now that it was her mom who actually arranged the TV repair. Is that right? Which is why she starts to kind of go off on one. I think this is leakage, Julia. Oh yeah, then the TV guy would have called my mom. And then she says, and I think at that point she realizes, actually, I better back off on this one and not talk anymore about this one. So she pretends to be, or she's distracted by her phone and says, sorry, yeah. So the repair guy called.
Yeah, I agree. I don't believe she mentions her mom the first time through, ever.
There's lots she doesn't mention that suddenly come up once the police have downloaded the phone.
And something with the mom she doesn't want to talk about. I absolutely agree with Jack that that's a moment where she stumbles. She's just, and then she's like, sorry. She just gets completely silent at that point. She's realizes she's going to say something she probably shouldn't say. And I think there was a lot more. I mean, she did describe her morning as being very busy, but we're finding out it was even busier. There's a lot more going on than she originally said, and which might explain it. What I think would be interesting to know, which I don't know, is would she ever go to lunch with friends without first showering?
No
Is
way.
that
No way. For my
So-
analysis of her, no way in hell.
so? Somebody who seems very organized, very planned. At least that's some of the personality traits we're seeing in her interview. Even though she's saying it's chaos and everything, she is meticulous about things. She's looking at people, she's introducing people, she's remembering her manners, as I said earlier. So I have a feeling that her morning was just more unexpected than she thought it would be. And I just would be interested to know exactly why she didn't shower, why she didn't have time, because I would think this should have been a normal day for her, completely normal. She should have had everything planned. And it does seem like I had a repair guy here. We all have that. We're working from home. I sent an email. This really shouldn't have been a crazy morning. It's a normal morning. But it became a crazy morning. We don't really understand why. And then Jack, I think it's leakage in this later part of the interview where she's starting to leak out, and you realize, oh, well, her mom, he had called my mom. There's much more going on. And I wonder if the shower just got away from her and she didn't really get to prepare like she normally would have. Something is off.
I will give you my theory on that after we listen to the next section from Wendi and what she says. I think it's potentially very telling.
And let me just give you guys a couple background things. First of all, the TV. I don't know if you guys know this. It was essentially like a like you would see in a dorm room. It was like a tiny TV. It wasn't like this massive plasma that she even needed a repair person to come down. It wasn't like this thing where like, and also I don't know if you noticed this. You probably did, I'm sure. But she's like, well, I had Charlie call and to see if it needed to be repaired. But the guy said it didn't need to repair. Basically, she should have just got a new TV. She didn't need to have a repair guy have in the first place. And to your point about like maybe this being a little more erratic this morning, just remember this is the second time they went down. The first time she probably thought it was going to happen. Now this is the second time, so maybe like she was worried because the first time it was supposed to happen, it didn't. And then she has an 18-minute conversation with her brother Charlie, which she kind of doesn't talk about initially, but then talks about. So.
Julia said about watching interviews again and again and again and again, and there was something I kicked myself in the first part for not mentioning. She talks about the TV was broken in the past tense. The story, as we know, was the TV was unrepairable, therefore it still is broken at the point that Wendi was talking. And I thought that was very interesting that on the afternoon where the TV guy has not been able to fix the TV, she refers to it as was broken. And I think that suggested to me that the time the TV was broken or reported broken was very important to her. She doesn't care that the TV is broken. It's the fact that it was broken, therefore something could happen, i.e. the TV repair could be arranged.
And just so you know, her boyfriend Jeff at the time talks about when he first found out about it. He's like, first of all, because her story is that one of her kids threw something and it broke it. He's like, first of all, it didn't seem like the damage could have been. I had played catch with them. There's no way that they like threw something and broke it. And then second of all, she made the kids watch a movie. He talks about it. It was the dragon, the dragon cartoon. I'm forgetting the name. I'm sure someone in there. But she made the kids, instead of like going, they have other TVs in the house. That day that she's there, they watched this movie with the broken TV. The kids are like crying, like this is awful. there's like a big thing, a big crack, but they still watch the TV. They still watch the movie on this broken TV. Train Your Dragon, yeah, there it is. So anyway, that's just a little background. that maybe you guys didn't know about.
There's got to be easier ways to get away with things.
Yeah. So, all right, let me continue here.
A little before 10 a.m. he
Yeah.
left. Okay. And then you went back to working on papers and so forth.
Yeah, I was making some breakfast. I remember I was making oatmeal, so it was taking a while. It was like that kind that you have to stir for a long time. And I was talking to Charlie, so there's my call to Charlie, and then I called Renee, my friend who's interviewing for a job at FSU today. She was driving in, and I wanted to wish her good luck and see if I could meet her for a hug at some point today.
Okay.
So that was at 10:24. I called my friend Tova back at 11:22. I think I was just, in between working on the paper, being distracted.
So between 10:24 and 11:22, all right, 10:24, you're talking to Renee.
I talked to her for 18 minutes.
Okay, so now we're up to 10:24, 4:24 plus 18, we're at 40 something.
42?
42?
Yeah. Then I went back to working. And then I tried Danny again. I left a message at 11:42 a.m. It's probably just 27 seconds. I just left him a message.
Okay.
And this is outlet.
Before you go, I just want to say again, we got over 740 people here. This is one of my most watched lives ever. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. The likes, the comments, everything. Thank you. Please, please, please check out both our guest channels that are in the description, being shared in the chat. I promise you, you won't regret it. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, you have such a lovely audience, by the way, Jay. Well, credit to you for building them.
Thank you.
Look, help me out here. How popular is she? She had a lot of phone calls to make. Now, none of these phone calls were in the first pass of the timeline. In fact, she said, I don't think I spoke to anyone else. She said that in the first go. All of a sudden, she's phoning a lot of people, and she's very aware of whether she spoke to the person or whether she left a message to them. So we'll see more of these coming here. So I think, Julia, she was really busy. Is it actually that she wanted to phone as many people as possible that morning so they could account for her whereabouts at that time? Oh, yeah, I talked to her at this time, or she left a message for me at this time, because she's making lots of calls. The other thing I notice around the calls is that if they make her look like a good person, she'll tell you what the content was. So I called Renee, my friend who's interviewing for a job at the FSU today. She was driving in. I wanted to wish her good luck and see if I could meet her for a hug at some point. That's my call to Charlie, and then I called Renee. So that's my call to Charlie. No description of what it was about or the content or the reason at all. But then we've got my friend Renee, who was applying for a job, my friend Toba. Later on, she talks about calling someone who's just had a baby, which, I'm an eye nice. I'm phoning people around their babies. So there's all these calls happening, which I find the fact that she's listing these off one by one very interesting, but also there are some calls where she's quite happy to explain why I wanted to phone them, what my relationship is to them, what we spoke about, how long we spoke to them. She doesn't say how long the call to Charlie was. She says, yeah, I was on the phone to Renee for like 18 minutes, but there was my call to Charlie, boom. And that's all she does to describe that. And she says this, the oatmeal breakfast, by the way, not in the first pass either. She said when the repairman went, she worked for a couple of hours or an hour or so or something like that. So she's started to introduce a lot more detail. I'd suggest this is much more realistic than the first pass, because she's thinking, I've now got to make what I say match what they know from my phone records. But it does feel like she has made a hell of a lot of phone calls that day. And she's very aware of whether she got through to them or whether she left a message to that person.
So before you go, Julie, so it's almost like she knew the police were going to talk to her, but she didn't expect them to take her phone, maybe. Go ahead, Julia, with what you're...
So I just have a couple observations to add. I believe she says when she's talking with Charlie when she's making the oatmeal. Is that correct?
She says, I was making some breakfast. I remember I was making oatmeal, so it was taking a while, and I was like that kind where you have to stir for a long time. And I was talking to Charlie, so there's my call to Charlie, and then I called Renee. So she doesn't actually say she was making the breakfast when she was talking to Charlie. But she does run the two in together.
I think she's trying to make breakfast and on the phone with Charlie, which is why she leaves out that she made oatmeal in the first pass.
Ah, yes.
I think that's why she's just glossing over in the second. So then as she's recalling, now she's got to be more detailed. She's like, well, I was stirring and I was, so clearly she had a longer talk with Charlie. But the other word she uses in this is that she was distracted. And why is she distracted? Interesting topic when you're waiting for something, or you're waiting for news, or you're planning something, you get distracted. And she uses that word, and that is the reason she calls another friend. So yes. I find that an interesting term. What are you distracted by? She tries to blame it on her work, but this should be again a normal day. I'm distracted by my work, so I make a call. She's distracted by something else. Something is distracting her from a normal day. She's leaving that out. She's not telling us. It doesn't mean she knows about the murder, but
right. None of this, none of this means that she's guilty. This is all we're analyzing.
She's distracted by something, whether it's something Charlie has said, whether it's something to do with her mother, but she's distracted by something, and that is what she's not telling us, and that's an area of focus.
Wow. Go ahead, Jack.
It could be, and that's a great shout on that distracted, because she tells us she's distracting herself, because she's said in the first pass, I was working on this paper. She tells us later the paper is due soon or due today or something like that. And I wonder if she's distracting herself in her life, and in the parts of this interview that we haven't spoken about, she's cancelling things that are happening tonight. Like her manners are still around her. Why didn't you show at the party? My ex-husband was shot. That's all right. We forgive you for not phoning ahead and letting us know. But she's wanting to get all this in a row. She is very together, and it could be that she had to have this bit of work done. That is a thing that she has to do today. But there's all this other stuff going on around me, including the fact that I feel I have to phone people just to make sure. Number one, I've got Charlie and my mum are around on the phone, but I've also got to make sure that there are some people who can vouch for my whereabouts, that I was speaking to them at such and such a time that morning, and it's getting in the way, it's distracting me from doing this work.
Wow, folks, I can't believe it's almost been an hour already. Julia, did you get to the part that you wanted to discuss about?
I think it's, you guys, maybe you already discussed it, because I think it's much earlier. There's just a couple things that I want to note just overall, particularly when the victim advocate comes in. And maybe you've already discussed this, so please tell me if you have or not. But she pays her compliments. She tries to have small talk with her. What Wendi is doing is she's attempting to build rapport, and that's what you do when you want to try to question somebody. And so she's trying, that's what I see she's doing. That's what we're taught as interviewers, investigators. You want to sit down. You don't want to just start in, did you do it? You want to ask them, oh, it's a nice day out, and oh, you have kids, or you try to build rapport. And that's what she's doing with the advocate. And then as we see, she starts trying to question the advocate. And of course, the advocate comes in and tells Wendi, I need to get these numbers for you, this contact information. And then Wendi turns it on her and says, I need you to tell me how I can help you. And that's Wendi's way of getting the advocate to try to tell her information. She's already told her how you can help me. I need these numbers. And Wendi does it to her twice. So that's very interesting dynamic that throughout the interaction with Sarah, that's very telling. And you can tell Sarah's not comfortable with it. She's like, this is not how this works. I'm going to go get Detective Isom. It just becomes a little awkward. The other thing, have you talked about Game Changer?
No.
Okay. I just want to add this one in. So when Sarah tells her that Dan may not be dead. So what we know throughout the interview, as you pointed out, Jay, and this is what made me think of this, is that she's trying to figure out like all these things. She's acting so confused. What do I do? Do I call these people? Do I cancel this? How do I tell the boys? There's all this confusion. When Sarah tells her that Dan may not be dead, her reaction is, that's a game changer. What kind of terminology is that? It's not like relief. But what that tells me is that she had some sort of plan in place already, even though she's acting like she doesn't. There's a plan in place based on the expectation that Dan is dead. And when she gets this little nugget, it is like, that's a game changer, which tells me she had plans.
Wow.
And so this suggests and it hints at a deeper involvement. And I think for me, that was the game changer. It's just such a weird response to like, oh, thank God. What do you mean he's alive? What does this mean? You know, it's really just such a moment of like, ugh, she's been shocked. And she was not expecting that. And then she goes on over and over through the interview trying to determine, which would seem normal for a mother. Are we in danger? Are we in danger? But as you listen to her, you start to realize she's not actually trying to determine if they're in danger. She's trying to determine, have they identified someone or caught someone? That's what I think. And if you listen to it carefully, you can kind of pick that up. And that especially happens after Sarah lets her know that Dan is not officially dead.
Yeah, and I think her behavior changes too. She's different. First, she thinks he's dead, and then she's like, "Oh, he might be alive," and she's just like a different person. And by the way, just back to your point about like the things. What a weird thing to be like, "Oh, you kind of look like my sister," or we look alike. We could be sisters. Like, what a weird statement.
It's rapport building, and I think too, it's the assumption. This is a strange, but it's in her mind. She knows that if I tell her that I think we look alike, I'm paying her a compliment. So that goes to like, she knows she's attractive and that this would be a compliment. I don't go around thinking if I told someone, hey, I think you look like me, that they'd be like, oh, thank God. Somebody might be like, no.
It's such a weird.
It is very weird. And it's again, a moment of where you see this kind of clarity where she comes out of that weeping, that she's, in crisis mode. And she's like, oh, I think we look alike. Just very odd. And it's her way of giving a compliment.
There's so much odd about it. And I noticed when she doesn't ask the detective any of those procedural questions that she asks the victim advocate, she's divvied them up. She's gone, right, this person's going to give me this. I'm going to give that person this. And that is highly, highly unusual. If you've got a need, and a pressing need when your ex-husband's been shot or you fear for your kids or anything like that, you want everyone to help you in any way that they can. But she's decided this person's going to give me the information on the investigation. Why is she interested in that? And it's only the investigation as far as it relates to her. So she doesn't say, I don't think she ever asks, are there any suspects? Do you have any clues? It's, how did they get my car? How did you know the lunch was last minute? It's all questions about her. So she's really, really, that's a priority to her. Do they think it was me?
And I think the difference too with how she's interacting with each of them, it is due to, she's very much aware he's an older, more experienced male investigator. This is a younger, I mean, I think Sarah's younger than her. I don't know for sure, but it seems that she might be, just based on their interactions and in the way she looks. And I think she thinks because she's female and she's younger, she has a better chance of manipulating Sarah and drawing out information. And we know she's attuned to gender roles, because when the sergeant comes in and leaves, and Wendi says, I don't know who that is, and they tell her she's a sergeant, and she's like, oh, how gender assuming I was about that. So she's attuned to gender roles, and I think she's manipulating enough to be able to act one way and know what she can get out of the detective who's a male and more experienced, versus the victim advocate who's younger, female, and she's very well aware of gender roles, status, people's jobs. All of that plays into how she's interacting with these individuals. And it's a difference. She doesn't completely change her personality, but she certainly changes her approach. She's very skilled at it.
So good. And she brings up, oh, did we work at the same college? Did I see you speak at this thing? Do you know I have a book that's coming out that's going to be, she brings that up. She loves to bring that, I wrote this book and it's going to be she brings that up. Like, there's a lot of things. I mean, this is, Julia, a great point, but there's a lot of that she does with this victim's advocate. It's not just, it's her skirt. It's that they look like sisters. It's that they work together. Like, she really, and she is so manipulative. I mean, from all of us who watch her, she is the queen of manipulation. Go ahead, Jack.
I was only going to say, like, that it's frankly, it's next level manipulation where, that you go through the process of building the rapport, and, she, it's grooming. In fact, that's what it is. It's not, it's grooming. So it's, I'm going to spend some time building up this relationship with you, asking all these questions about you and talking about you and how you and I are so alike, to then take advantage of it. And it's it's a very interesting way to behave when you're in a police interview room.
So let me finish it with this. I mean, this has been absolutely amazing. You guys are blowing my mind, just like the first one. If you guys watching this, you didn't really have a lot of background. I mean, I think you kind of talked about this, Julia, then Jack. But do you think watching this police interview, if you were doing a profile for the FBI, would you be telling your coworkers or whoever, yeah, she was definitely involved, she knew about this and she was involved? Or is there not enough in this? What do you think, Julia?
I think at the very least, I'm going to use my words carefully, as people who listen to my show know I try to do. But at the very least, she had tacit knowledge. The very least.
What do you think, Jack?
I would, what I've noticed, I think the way I work, what my observations would lead to more questions or further investigations. So I would also say I don't see anything here. If I didn't see anything here and I see lots there, but I would at this point, if I was working on this investigation, if Julia had decided to be, we'll get him in, I would be saying there's a lot more questions she has to answer, and dig, very deeply into what was going on with her that morning. And wider than that morning, because I think she's got that morning boxed off and she's quite comfortable that she's got it boxed off. But if anything gets out of that box, then there's some trouble.
Well, go ahead, Julia.
I was just going to say that in terms of her knowledge, it may very well be in terms of joking and coded language. I just cannot see through that interview. She did not have some inkling something was happening and that was going to happen. I don't come away with that. And let me just preface it. I've seen the date lines, and I was more familiar with the case than Jack. I've seen the date lines and I've gone through the interview, and I do try to block out and try to just focus on the interview in front of me. But she does mention a lot about the joking, and he joked that this would be cheaper than a Hitman. And I just have to wonder if she didn't have some knowledge, and maybe even said it would be a lot easier if Dan were dead. And knowing her brother well, he goes off and plans it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
There is a thought and statement analysis that the things that people joke about repeatedly reveal their true character. So I think we probably all know that guy that jokes about, I'd love to have an affair with her, or, like she's a pretty girl when he's married or something like that. And that will actually turn out to be the person that does cheat on their wife and does have an affair. The person that jokes about doing drugs on a Friday night may well be the person that is actually doing drugs on a Friday night. And the things that people joke about repeatedly, we all make off-color jokes and so on, but the things that people joke about repeatedly will reveal their true character. So if he did make a lot of jokes about a Hitman, that was in his head for him to be thinking about it and making jokes about it.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. I see a lot of comments, bring them back. I mean, there's 3 trials of her testimony. If you guys are down, maybe we could do a future video where she gets, she has direct examination, cross-examination, and there's 3 different trials. So, I'd love to have you guys back at some point if you want to, but if not, that's cool. But please, folks, please check out their links on the replay crew, or if you're here now, give the podcast 5 stars, like, subscribe to all the things, please, because this has been just absolutely amazing, and I can't thank you guys enough.